Hello, and welcome everyone to the Coach's Corner with myself, Coach Hadassah, and Coach Cotton.
Yes.
How you doing? Yes, where we help you get to your next level.
Absolutely.
Yes, I want to. Let's go back here in the comments. Okay, there we go. Um, Today we're going to be talking about transitioning.
Yes.
Woo!
We both like, woo.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
transitioning. It sounds good, but it can be very, very challenging, right?
Say that again.
Um, we're transitioning from one point or state of being or whatever to another. And just that process of transitioning. When I think about transitioning, I think about like moving. You
Yeah.
know, have you ever lived somewhere for quite some time and then you have to move? And when I tell you, when you're younger, it's a little easier to transition because you don't, you got a lot of energy and you don't have
Right.
much, right? You have a lot of energy and you don't have much. But of course, as you get older, you know, and your energy changes because your energy does change and it's different. Um, it just takes a lot more out of you, and you have
Right.
so much more to take with you in that transitioning process. Um, and you don't take everything. That's one thing for sure, is you don't take everything over, because even in transitioning, you grow. You've
Right.
grown, and there are some things that you have outgrown and you have to leave behind and things like that. But then there are some things that are still useful that you take with you in that. But there's so much in that transitioning period
Right.
that we're gonna delve into. So, Coach Cotton, oh yeah, let's get into this.
Well, look, already everything you said just really got me thinking. I'm like, I had to take a deep breath on it because I'm going, this might be heavier than what we thought. And it may need to have more parts to it, just simply because scratching the surface of a transition is it's too big of a concept to just do in one episode of the Coach's Corner.
Yeah,
Because everything you just said, that alone could be two parts, from just relocating, moving, acquiring more stuff, and how you just said how it may be easier for us if we were younger, or it's easier for a child to transition, but not when you have moved toward adulthood, not when you have accumulated things, not when you have now ideologies, you have, your own way of thinking, your own way of doing things. And transitioning can just be a challenge. It can just really be one of those things where you're like, am I ready? What does that look like for me in this season? We're not talking about 5 years ago, we're talking about the present you. And so, Coach, as we begin to dive into this topic, I just think people should grab a pen or a notepad or something, because it's meaty. It's very hearty. Hey, Miss Shirley. Hey, Ebony. How y'all doing? Thank y'all for joining.
yeah.
So, first
Thank
of
you for
all,
doing it.
Coach, I was looking up the word transition in the etymology dictionary. You know how we do.
We
and
go get those meanings.
And when I was looking up the term, and it said to go across or a crossover. And I was like,
Mhm.
really? Like
Mhm.
a crossover or going across? And I was like, that already hit me different. Just the definition of transition, because I'm going, I thought it was just like you're moving to another level or you're moving to another place. But no, you're crossing over. And when we think about a phrase like crossing over, to me, I don't know if you can relate to it's a pre-K song. We're going on a bear hunt. Y'all just stay with me. I don't know if y'all ever remember that. But these campers or whatever, these little kids going on a bear hunt, they face so many obstacles. And so they had to try to cross over the peanut butter pond. You know what I'm saying? They had to, couldn't go over, couldn't go around it, couldn't go under it. And so they wanted to transition to get to this cave, wherever this bear was. And so I'm thinking about crossover. That's what I see in my head. And I'm like, wow. Or crossing over is to get to another life. And I'm trying to keep it, Coach. I'm really trying to keep it just simple, but it's not simple. Mm-hmm. But crossing over, again, in my mind, my interpretation is moving from one life to another life. Moving from this place, like you gave the analogy in the beginning, you're relocating, but you're moving, you're physically crossing over to another state, whether that's a state of mind, whether that's a new house, whether that is a new state, you're crossing over into something greater, something bigger, more improved. And in transitioning, there are natural things that come with it. There are natural challenges that we face. You have the fear, the anxiety, the temptations, the stubbornness. You're going to get pushed back. And that could just be with yourself or your family or whatever happens. We ain't even got to go outside of our realm to face all these things. But Coach, what I've been learning, what we've been talking about is in a transition, there are still some values that you must maintain. There is character that you still hold on to, your integrity that you must maintain, and just some basic principle law. Now, Coach, you're just looking at me like, yeah.
No, I'm listening. I'm like, yeah.
And so,
coach me, Coach.
Look, you got to coach me in a minute, because right before we went live, y'all, it just took a turn. Like, this whole transition thing went super spiritual. And I was like, Coach, I don't even think we can do this in one little shot kill. Like, it's not gonna happen. Like, this is gonna have to be a series if we go in that much depth with it. But it got real fast. That's all I'm gonna say. And anytime, what I love about you, Coach, is when we're having these conversations about these topics and these terms or whatever our topic is, when the Holy Spirit comes into it, he just takes it in his own direction, and we just have to let him have his way in it. And I love that freedom with you to let that happen. And that's how quickly, y'all, it went. We was like, yeah, transitioning, going to the next level, helping you out. And then he was like, oh, well, Jesus transitioned. And we were like, oh, this is going to get real deep. This is going to get real deep, right? Like, fast. And one thing you said, real. Coach, which I think needs to be the start of this, is surrender. Yeah. I took note of that. And again, we're not going to just jump into the meat and potatoes right now, but I want you guys just to write down surrender. Because anytime you transition, I don't care if it is a new job, you have to surrender or submit something. You have to submit a letter of resignation to your old job if you was working. You got to let that go. That's surrendering. That is releasing it. And then when you get to this new job, there are new requirements. There are new policies that you got to learn. This is all a part of the transition. But if you're not first surrendering to the transition due to your preparedness, because there should have been some preparation that took place for the transition. And now I really feel it really about to go into that place where you have to be the one to say, okay, if you want to get to your next level, that's something Coach and I say all the time. We're here to help you get to your next level. That's a transition. If you're trying to get to the next level, there should have been some preparation that took place, whatever you're doing. 2, there should have been some surrendering going on, some submission to whatever it is that you're trying to increase, to go to, or improve on, or be developed in. And so, just thinking about, Coach, our Heavenly Father, Jesus, when he did come, he did the preparation, he did the healing, he was performing the miracles. He, like you said, he was about his Father's business. Even though there were things he did not want to do, he did them because he had to do the big work. He knew he was getting ready to now transition from this side to the other side. Now, Coach, I'm gonna stop right there because I need you to jump in. Because again, y'all, I don't want this to get too Coach. I need you to open your eyes first.
Girl, I had to close them because look, the water, something was in my eyes.
Girl, I can't even look hardly bear to talk about it myself. Like,
girl, you're gonna have me in here waterworks, but
facts.
Yeah.
So like that's the start of transitioning. Yeah. So Coach, I want you to add in because Coach, you know you can hit it really good.
I mean, it's just what Coach was talking about with that the surrendering in the transition, right? That brings me to, because see, here's the thing. Everything is a pattern. You got cycles, you have patterns.
Yeah.
And you know, so like it's a repeat, but at the same time, you know, it's kind of like when they say the more things change, they stay the same. Like
right.
Seasons change, but we always have those seasons, right? The sun rises and it sets and it's a new day, but the sun still rises and sets.
Yes.
You know, we still have the same months throughout the year. We still have the same days in the months.
Right.
But we never have the same years.
It changes.
It changes.
Every year. It changes.
I mean, like we will never have another 1975. Right? We just won't, right?
Right.
And so what I mean, you know, what you're gonna hear me use the name Joshua, right? So I'm talking about Jesus when you hear me say Joshua.
Right.
Is the Hebrew name. So when Joshua came and did the work that he came to do, which was his purpose, right? We all have a purpose, but that was his purpose because he was ushering in something new.
Right.
So not only did he transition in his lifetime, but he transitioned in even a new age or order of things.
Yeah.
To where, just like I said, there will never be another 1975. There will never be another, you know, the time that he was in, like that age.
Right.
You know, he came in at the end of the fourth age to bring in a new way or a new order of things, a new system. And so, but that same thing played out throughout the scriptures. And whatever age, whatever time, there was always something or somebody that was sent to lead the way into the new thing.
Right.
That people had to get used to. And look, and those people, they took a lot. Right. There was a lot of bucking up against. There was a lot of abuse. There was a lot of, I mean, they even, in the scriptures, it even say that they killed the prophets.
Yes.
They killed them because they were bringing in something new that people weren't used to. They never seen it. They never heard of it. Any of those things. Now think about you, that person. You being that person that has to do that. It's like, I found myself even, do I got to do this?
Right.
You ain't got nobody else. Like, it's like 7 billion, almost 8 billion people on the planet. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
You
Like,
asking me.
you asking me to do this. It's
Right.
somebody else that can do this. But we have a purpose for why we're here, right?
Right.
So in the scriptures, and I'm just saying using this because I just want to show you how this transition happens and where you could go to in the scriptures to see it so that you can get a feel of when it comes to you in your life, and
Right.
you hit those points where it's like you're transitioning from this point to another, what you're going to have to come up against, and the surrendering that
Yes.
you have to surrender to it. So a transition was happening when they went over from Egypt into the wilderness. That was a transition that happened when they went over from, oh boy, okay, I'm gonna have to see what this is later. um when they went from the wilderness into the promised land,
Right.
that was a transition. Now here's the thing about that, because when they transitioned from Egypt to the wilderness, they only took so much,
Mm.
right? He told them, he said, spoil, which spoil means to rob. He said, spoil the Egyptians of their gold, their silver, and their fine linen. They needed those things. Those, first of all, those were earth resources. And they
Right.
needed those things because when they went over into the wilderness, there was a new system or a new order of things that was to come about, and they needed the gold and the silver and those fine linens to build what they
Mm-hmm.
were building. But it was made in a way that it can be packed up and moved through, because
Right.
that wasn't their place to where they were supposed to stay, right? Because they were going to what they were promised,
Right.
right? So there was a lot of stuff happening in between. They was complaining, murmuring, hollering, screaming, just doing a whole lot of things.
Fear, anxiety, they had all of it, coach.
All of
All
that.
of
I
it.
mean, they was being disobedient to what was. I mean, just all of that, right? So then they get to another transition point where because you mentioned crossing over. That's what made
Yes.
me think about this. You said transitioning is a crossing over. So they
Yes.
crossed over from Egypt to the wilderness on dry
Right.
ground, but through some water. But it was on dry ground through the water, if that makes sense. But that's what happened. And then when they transitioned from the wilderness to Canaan's land or the promised land, they transitioned and went through some water again.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm bringing that water out because the transition, we be crying.
All day. I raised my hand first, and nobody else want to admit to it. Anytime I've had a transition, it has been a whole tsunami coming out of my eyes. Because I'm
Yeah,
like, really?
waterworks. Right? You got some waterworks. So I'm just saying that for those who think, you ain't supposed to show emotion or cry or, whatever. Listen, it was some water involved when they went from Egypt to the wilderness. And it was
Mm-hmm.
some water involved when they went from the wilderness to Canaan's land. So if you find yourself in some waterworks, just let it flow. Just, you ain't doing nothing wrong. Just cleanse, let it out,
Right.
like whatever, right? So they crossed over Jordan. They crossed over, right? But look, there were some that didn't cross over because of unbelief. There were some
Mm-hmm.
that didn't cross over because when they went to spy out the land to see what was up, what was going on, or whatever, it was like they were fearful. Oh, lions, and we can't take them, and all that kind of stuff. And then you had some
Right.
that was like, "Ooh, the land, the storm with milk and honey. You got this, it got that. Them people over there, what we just went through. Oh, that ain't nothing. Them a small, what they call a small fry to a success. Go over there and get what, and the ones that had the belief went
Yes.
over, and the ones that did not died off in the wilderness. They stayed over there and died. What does that mean for you? Why did I say all of that? Because in the transition, you're going to have that fear that rise up. Kill
Right.
it off. Because when they went over there, first of all, it wasn't a cakewalk. When they went over there, they were going over there to get and claim what was theirs, what
Right.
was promised to them. And that's the reason why they call it the promised land, because it was promised to their forefathers. That was, when we talk about generational wealth and stuff, that was their generational wealth. That
Right.
was their inheritance. And you had some other people that were over there on it, something that wasn't even theirs. So they
Right.
had to go over there and get those people, drive those people out of the land, whether they had to, I mean, really, there was only two things that they could do. They could kill them, or they were they're left as their servants. That was the only two options. And Yahweh Elohim told them which ones, these nations, you got to kill them off. These
Right.
nations, you got to keep them, because they're going to do two things. They got don't serve two purposes. They're going to serve you, that's one, and try you to see if you will continue to follow me and my laws or start doing what they doing.
Right.
It was
Right.
that was their purpose. And so, why am I saying all of that? Because if you think that it's going to be a cakewalk, if you think that the transition is going to be a cakewalk, it is not.
It's not.
Right? It's not. But you know that what's over there is yours. When we're talking about killing off nations and all of that kind of stuff, I ain't talking about killing off other people. It's just a metaphor, analogy, whatever you want to use, that there are certain things in you that you must kill off.
Mm.
It's in you. You have to kill it off. You have to kill off unbelief. It
Mm-hmm.
has to die, right? You got to kill it. You got to kill off those um vain imaginations,
Yeah.
because they had to go over there and fight off nations, condemnation, imagination, all these different whatever what was some other were indignation, all of
Yeah.
these nations, these things that are in your mind that has been holding you hostage for forever. You have to kill it off. You can't
Absolutely.
take those old ways and old behaviors over there to that new place,
It won't
because
work.
that, look, that worked for you in Egypt. What I mean by that, Egypt means darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever those behaviors, thoughts, beliefs, or whatever, that I say it worked for you in darkness, but it didn't even work for you in darkness.
Right.
Because can you see in the dark? It's kind of
Period.
hard,
No.
right? I mean, not really. I mean, even when it's dark, we still have light, but it's very, be in a dark room and try to move around. You stumbling over stuff, you're hitting your toe, all kinds of things. So it didn't really work. It didn't work. So
Right.
then in your wilderness season of life, whatever you work for you in survival mode, that behavior won't work for you in places where you don't have to try to survive.
Right. Wow. Ooh. Wow. Mm-mm.
Everything is over there. It's already with, look, when Adam and Eve came on the, but did they come on day 1 or day 6?
Mm.
On day 6, everything had been created. All they had to do was keep it,
Right.
maintain it.
Right.
Dress it and keep it means to maintain it. I'm putting
Yes.
the intelligence in you in order to maintain what I already got here for you. You don't have
Right.
to try to create a tree. It's already there. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to try to create the animals. They already there. You don't
Right.
have to try to put the sun in the sky, and that's already all, everything is all done. All I need you to do is maintain it.
Right.
That was it. So in the promised land, he said, because when he said, but when they were going over there, He said, now I'm taking you to this place. It's a place that's overflowing with milk and honey. It got houses that you don't have to build. It has wells that you don't have to dig. It have all of these things that you don't have to do the work. It's already
Already
done.
been done. Absolutely.
But all you got to do is
Claim it.
claim it, which means if it's some people there that ain't supposed to be there, get them out. If it's some thoughts, whatever kind of beliefs or whatever you had in your head, in your mind, or whatever that worked for you before that really wasn't working. Because if that was, I mean, think about it. You're uncomfortable. And really, when you go into transition mode, it's because you get uncomfortable. But this
Absolutely.
let you know that it's time for you to go. You cramped up. It's time for you to go. Right? So now, because we talked about that, we talked about the, you know, the stuff that you have to pack. I mean, you know, listen, it's like I we lived somewhere for 13 years, and then, you know, we moved. So we've been where we are now for 4 years, and we're about to make another move. But we knew that this was, you know,
Coming.
a holding space for a minute or whatever. But when you live somewhere for 13 years and then you move, you'd be surprised how much you can accumulate in a
Oh,
13-year
absolutely.
span. And of course, me, I'm like, look, we're gonna pack up these kids, whatever clothes that they can fit, and you know what I'm saying, just a little bit here and there. All of this stuff right here, it could go in the garbage if all
Right.
like we get some new stuff. And the same thing, you know, like this is the year of like, okay, we got to start getting rid of stuff, this, that, and the other, because again, as you get older, you don't have the same energy. As a matter of fact, I'm hiring movers. I'm hiring people to even pack. All I
Right.
want to do is drive to the place, new place, and then point to where stuff going.
Right.
That's it.
Delegate.
Right. When
And
you're
yeah.
younger, you got you know, your little friends and everything that's gonna help you move and all that. Now you get
I
older,
know.
it's like you
Not
so
even going through that.
it's not going through that, right? So it's like you doing that same thing. You're uncomfortable. You have to transition. You have to surrender to that process of that transitioning. I was just talking about that with, you know, with Coach Cotton earlier about, you know, man, everybody that I talked to had a day yesterday. I mean, a day between yesterday and today. I don't know what the heck was going on, but everybody had something that was going on. And I had such a freaking day to where at honey, after 3 o'clock, I was just saying okay to everything. Oh, okay.
Right.
All right. Okay. Yeah, sure. That was surrender. That
Yes.
wasn't giving up. It was surrendering to whatever the process or the
Yes.
transition or whatever it is or was. Surrender,
Yes.
right?
Surrender. Absolutely.
And when I went to bed and woke up this morning, I had clarity on what to do next for today. And one of the bigger issues was handled immediately. And then some other issues, those were, you know, they're being rectified and everything too. It's still some stuff, but it was just like,
right. You got it. I mean, at that point, and coach, it's just, I mean, that surrender thing is something that we all have to
you just
really
got,
learn and practice. Your
for
hands
real.
up. Your hands up. Because you have to learn how to turn it over. Again, in the transition, you have to give it back to God, like 100%. That's what you're doing. As you cross over, as you move into a new territory, as you increase, as you go to your next level, that's the transitioning part. You have to surrender to something above you, and you got to just give it over. You got to turn it over to Him, because at some point, you cannot go through a transition alone. again, if we go back to Jesus, he could not do it. What he said, Coach, let this cup
Look,
pass from me.
he
If it
said, let
be
this cup pass from me.
right.
However, not my will, your will be done. That was
Absolutely.
surrendering to the will,
To the will.
right?
Absolutely.
He ain't look, I ain't want it either. I'm like, listen,
Y'all got
okay.
it.
And I said,
Nope.
but your will, whatever it is, I surrender to the process. Like, I'm going to
Absolutely.
be look, even who was that? It was that Abraham, Jacob, one of them that was wrestling with the angel and everything
Yes, I won't let go till you bless me.
till you bless me, and he put his hip out of socket and everything, and then he just went to sleep. Girl, he went to sleep. I'm like, I'm going to
Right.
bed.
And that's it. And you know what?
Jacob,
Yes,
that's what,
Jacob,
yep, it
Miss
was
Justin
Jacob.
Jacob. And this is the thing, Coach, that ties it all together. It still takes for you to have a certain character about yourself.
Yes.
To surrender, to submit, to transition, that real crossover, so that is smooth transition. Like you can transition and it can be in a very rocky place. Like you just not ready. You're not prepared. And we gonna if we keep it on the basic, like moving from this place to that place. I have transitioned and it was a catastrophic monstrosity. It was horrific. I was not ready. I didn't have no tools in my toolbox. I didn't know what was happening out there. I was trying to call my mama, my dad, my brother, my sister. Look, somebody help me. This is just pure mayhem and pandemonium. But when you get ready to transition, you have to be ready and prepared. But that deals with your character. What have you learned? Because one thing about God, He never gonna move you, transition you, promote you, elevate you, however you want to say it, to your next level if you are not ready.
Right.
Period. If you're not ready to go there, it's just not gonna happen. You can pray, you can cry, you can fall out, you can lay prostrate. It don't matter. Until you're ready, He is not going to transition you.
And you know
Because
what? I want to add something to that too. Because
yes,
when you just said that about being ready, and
yes,
Heavenly Father, He's not going to elevate you until you are ready. But you have to know what that is, right? You have to have a certain characteristics and fruits. I want y'all, and then look, I ain't trying to turn the coach's corner over into some, like this Bible study. It's just
it's
not.
not, but it's needed
But
for this
like it says,
transition so you
that
can
all
get it.
scripture is for reproof and correction and all of
Yeah.
that. It says that, right? And Galatians chapter 5 and start at 19, because it gives you two sets of behaviors. Okay, two sets of behaviors to where you know who you are. You know exactly who you are. If you be honest with yourself, when you look at those two sets of behaviors.
Yes.
And it goes into that first set and it tells you at the end of it, if you're displaying this behavior, you will not inherit the kingdom of heaven.
Period.
That's on earth. You won't inherit it. You're not going over, right? You're not going to transition. Just
You're
like
not.
they didn't transition. Okay. And then I ain't even from that. That's a whole nother coach's corner. I was about to go there, but we ain't got that much time.
We ain't got that much time for this.
Right. And then the other set of behaviors that says, now these are the fruits of the spirit. Now, I'm gonna give you something very, very simple. There are 9 divine attributes of our creator.
Yeah.
And there are 9 fruits of the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
There are 9 planets.
Mm-hmm.
There are 9 vital organs that make up the system in our bodies. The 9 planets make up a system. That number 9, when you look at it just in the numbers, 9 is that end number before we get another 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
9 is that number of complete right? Completion, being complete and whole.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why you got 9 divine attributes, which is wisdom, intelligence, knowledge, love, beauty, justice, foundation, power, and strength. And everything in your life is going to test you,
On those 9
test those
attributes.
characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
Is it working in you? Then, when they are, you develop the fruit. Because what's the last thing to develop on a fruit tree?
The fruit.
The fruit. It's the last.
You don't plant the seed. You
You're
had to
right.
water. You had to cultivate it. Then you had to wait on the rain to come to shower it. Then you had to prune it. Then you had to prime it. You had to trim
Man,
it.
the,
Child, you
the
still ain't seen no
leaves,
fruit until the harvest comes up, and then finally
and then finally you got
you
fruit,
gonna get an apple or
and
a
you
fig
eat,
or something.
right? Otherwise, you ain't you. Let now the leaves are for healing, because it say that in the scriptures. The leaves and the trees are for food and for medicine, but the leaves are for the medicine. You know, the vegetation, and the fruit is for eating, and it's sweet, right? And so when those characteristics in us are tested, then we develop the fruit of the spirit,
Yes.
which is love, joy. Let me see. So it's
Peace.
love, joy, peace.
Peace.
Look, long suffering.
Yes.
You know what long suffering is? It's endurance. It's not. I used to think it was patience. Long suffering is not patience. Long suffering is endurance. Because
Absolutely.
I can patiently wait in line until the person finished with the person in front of me on the cash register with their groceries, bag them up and all of that kind of stuff. And then I get up there. That's patience.
Right.
Endurance is you in pain, honey. You about to experience complete muscle failure. But you gotta endure that process to get to the end of the finish line. Like a
Absolutely.
marathon runner. You ever seen them at the end? They like
right, everything.
They about to
Matter
fall
of fact, their body has literally broken down, but then I can't remember the medical term for it, but they go into a different muscle memory that's really doing the work for them because of the endurance, because of the stamina. But it's not them anymore.
It's not them. Something else has taken over. Just again, the surrendering. Something else has to take over. And so long suffering, right? So we got love, joy, peace. We got long suffering. We have faith, right? Kindness, which is gentleness, right? Righteousness, right? You got humility and self-control. Now, those 9 fruits of the spirit actually develop in that order.
Right. Yeah.
The last 2 are humility
and self-control.
And if those last 2 are not developed, you don't go.
You don't transition. You do not cross over.
So that's what it means to be ready. Those 9 divine attributes have to be working at all times. Those fruits of the spirit, you gotta have them, or life will not be sweet. Because fruit is sweet. Absolutely. I love me some fruit. As a matter of fact, I need to find some fruit around here. But you know,
and you know what, Coach? Speaking of that, Coach, you always eat fruit. Every time I talk to you, you got a fruit tray, a bowl, or something. I'm over the aggravated with you because I got bags of chips. Coach got fruit. I got cookies, chips, or whatever.
6 Affy Taffies, girl. I be not Affy Taffy, Affy Tapples. That's what they call it. Girl, I eat all 6 of them.
I can't. But I'm glad you broke that down for us, Coach, because again, if we go back to the way the transition should happen, again, it should be peaceful. It should be smooth. There should be no rocky road, no bumpy road, because that should have taken place while you were learning. That should have taken place during your getting prepared. And if you're finding that in a transition, your character is now being tested and you find yourself going off, you find yourself bullying people, being narcissistic, you find yourself displaying some behaviors that's not in these principles, these characteristics of our Heavenly Father, there is a problem.
And
That means that transition gonna say one, two things. One, you're not ready for this transition, and there's some more pruning, correction that you need to go through. Or two, you're just not transitioning. I mean, this is as blunt I can make it. Like, this is not your season to crossover. There's a little bit more work that has to go into you. There's a little bit more cultivation that has to go into you getting to your next level. And again, that can be in any season of your life. Your transition should not be rocky. It should not be bumpy. It should not. If you're crying because you know that you can see the finish line. You know that the promotion is about to come. You know the elevation is about to come. So if you're crying and you're going through that storm is not a negative. That's a positive storm because you know where you're about to cross over to. Just like the children from Egypt, when they was crossing over to go to the promised land, they were crying, but guess why? Because those who believed, they were going to make it to see the promised land. They were already sold out on what they had to do. So their tears wasn't, oh my God, this is all crazy. I don't know what. Some of them was, but those are the ones who didn't make it. If you're going to be one of the ones who's ready to transition, you got to have those fruits of the Spirit. You got to be ready. It should be smooth for you. You should know when you're ready. Nobody should have to come and tell you, because after God has told you and he's taking you through whatever you need to go through, you should know that you're ready. You should also know when you're not ready to transition. This is something that you can clearly see. It's not going to be a trick or a prank. You're going to know on both sides if you're ready or if you're not ready to cross over into whatever next level, promotion, new territory, anything that you're about to embark on. Mm-hmm. You got to check your character. You got to check your attitude. What is your behavior displaying? What are you demonstrating? And I'm talking about for you. Are we doing self-examination for a transition? Transition is not easy. Again, Jesus was beaten. He was crucified. He took on sins of the world to be the Savior and Redeemer. Nothing he did. He didn't do anything wrong, but this was his transition period. He had to die, literally die a physical death to transition into glory. And to really seal the deal, he had to be dead for 3 days. I mean, like, they want to be sure. Like, this is not even something that he could do on his own. Here again, he had to have the help of the Father. Like, cause he was dead. This wasn't a joke.
Right. But
to transition to that eternal state, into that glory form, he had to go through a process. What are y'all doing in the process? I'm talking to me too. So if I say y'all, look, I'm not just holding y'all accountable, I'm holding me accountable. Coach, what we doing in the process? We want to be prosperous. We want to be successful. Success and wealth is a transition from you being broke, from you being poor, from you being impoverished to get to wealth, success, and prosperity. There is a transition that's going to take place. And if you are not ready, you will not cross over. I don't care how many deals you do, how many network marketing programs, opportunities you join. I don't care how many jobs you have and how many multiple streams you think you got. If you are not ready to go through that process, you will not see prosperity in your transition because you're simply not ready. There is a period.
Tell me, it was something that you said earlier. Remember
what, Coach? I don't know. No, don't make me remember.
No, it's like seriously, but you didn't say this, but it put me in a mind frame of like when Joshua, who was really Joshua, said that, he didn't say I wish, but that you may be in good health and prosper, even as your soul prosper.
Right.
But you didn't say that. It was something else that you said about your soul prospering. Girl, listen.
You know, we be talking all day sometimes.
I know you said it earlier, and I was like, why am I in this car right now? I need to be writing this down.
Because why
am I in the passenger seat in this car right now? I need to be at home with pen and paper. Like, oh my God. you said it, but what you said was in the scriptures as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what you were saying. It was it Mama Cotton? Somebody was preaching and preached on that, and they said something about
Yes.
because you gotta say
We
it.
was in the book of Joshua on Sunday, and
Yes.
my second mom, Didi, my stepmom, she was talking about it. She was talking about this message,
Okay.
and
Yes.
he was saying that unless, you know, again, and I think this is what I was saying, Coach. If I remember correctly, you correct me if I'm wrong because I don't really remember, but I think you jogging my memory a little bit. But basically what she was saying, she was like, we aspire to have the wealth, we aspire to have the success and the prosperity, and we do all these things to try to obtain it. But when she went to Joshua, and I got to find the exact scripture, but it was in the book of Joshua, she said, God said, if you meditate on my words day and night, you will have success and prosperity. But that is the requirement, is to
Right.
meditate on my word day and night. And look, I didn't write it.
And
He
meditate
wrote it.
means
But
to
that
it
was the
means to think
guideline.
on it. It means to ponder. It
Yes.
means to, I mean, you got to take that
Study,
word and just be
break
all
it
up
down.
in your mind with it. Like
Yes,
we
ma'am.
let it, because that's the thing about because what
Let
I
me see, Ebony. I'm trying to see.
yeah, the meditation. Because with that meditation is big nowadays,
Yes.
meditation and all of that. And so I was always what was like, how do you really supposed to meditate? Because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you say clear your mind. I'm like, I'm all something gonna come up. Like, did I put them beans on? Did I
Right.
mean, something gonna come up. Did I leave those socks down there in the dryer? Like all that kind of stuff. And so
Mm-hmm.
um I started focusing on because I always say focus on your breathing. And I did that and all that. And I'm like, I want to know if meditation, they talk about that in the scriptures. Let me see. So I put that word in the search of the scriptures, and meditation and meditate came up a few times. And every time it says something about meditate or meditation, it was always meditate on my meditate. I meditate on your word. Your word is my meditation. I
Right.
meditate on your goodness. I
Yes.
meditate. So everything about meditation was on the word, right? It
Yes.
was on the word. And so what she just mentioned about, meditating on the word so that you may prosper, because look, you don't prosper unless your soul is prospering.
Absolutely.
That's really the reason why people get a bunch of money and then lose it. I don't care what they do. If we talk about the people in the lottery all the time, y'all, the people
Mm-hmm.
that win the lottery, they don't keep it. Look, forget them. It's people. I've been in around the, let's just say, the network marketing industry. I ain't want no parts of it, to be honest. I
Right.
got 100% right. Why? My mother was in the network marketing industry before it was called network marketing. It was called direct sales. They were direct sellers. They sold Avon. They sold Mary Kay. They sold Amway. They sold Shackley. They sold
Right.
all those things. They sold Tupperware. Girl, my mama always had a party at the house that I was helping out folks. I was the hired kid. Didn't even realize I was the hired kid. When they say hire your children in your business, I ain't get paid, but I was hired.
Right.
I ain't get paid, but I was hired. So um you go through so many of them until you find that one that you're successful in. And I saw the success that she had with Mary Kay, with the cars and the we had the pink Regal and the Cadillacs, and we had all that, honey.
Right.
Listen, and that wasn't the only company. It was other companies she was very successful in too. But I
Mm-hmm.
will say this, and not just for them, but other people as well. I have seen folks have a bunch of money,
Yeah.
make a bunch of ranks and all that kind of stuff, climb the ladder in the company and fall from it or be ousted from it or whatever. and there was no prospering of the soul. And
Right.
so that's why it wasn't maintained. Because here's the thing about it. Because you can, I mean, it don't necessarily mean that you have to stay in that particular company, place, or whatever in order
Right.
like, no, if your soul is prospering, you can still leave that place, go to another place, or you don't have to. You could take what you got from that and build on that, and you still gonna prosper. You
Mm-hmm.
still gonna prosper because your soul was prospering the whole time.
The
And so
whole
then you're
time.
able to maintain and keep what you got from there, right? But if you didn't, being in that same place, and then you
Mm-hmm.
not longer there, and then you lose everything too, guess what? Your soul didn't prosper. You was just accumulating material things.
Right.
And how
Right.
many times have I seen that in my lifetime? A lot. And that is why I really didn't want nothing to do with that industry. But when
Mm-hmm.
I found myself at home with my children, because I've always been self-employed, I ain't never been nobody's employee. you know,
Right. Right.
I started out self-employed, but when I found myself at home with my children, because that's what Heavenly Father said, I got something for you to do, and you can't do it behind this chair.
Period.
I'm making good money behind this chair. What you mean? you know, what you mean going home with these kids? Right?
There's a transition about to happen.
Right. I had to transition. And I did, and look, and this is why I'm trying to tell you. Do not buck up against the transition and surrender. Because I
Just
didn't
surrender.
surrender in that point, and then the very thing I was making my money with, I got struck with carpal tunnel
Mm, mm, Help
and
us,
and,
Jesus.
and had sciatic nerve issues and stuff like that. I look, I'll tell on myself. I
Just,
did not
just surrender.
the first time I did not. I was they have the look the lamb, the willing lamb that goes to the, and then you got the goat. I was the goat at that time, just bucking.
Oh Lord, help us.
And I don't mean goat as in greatest of all times, or maybe I was the greatest of all. I was the greatest of all times in trying to buck up against what I was supposed to be doing,
Cause it be
and I
real.
and I didn't win that fight. Right? I didn't win it because I didn't surrender. But I learned from that experience to where, look, you better surrender or else, because you're not gonna win.
Right.
And
Right.
so I found myself, and it's like, okay, what do I do? I did what I fell back on what I knew, what I
Right.
was raised around. And and but I always found things that, like, if I didn't want to build and all that kind of stuff, at least I liked the product and I could market it, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and okay, I would always do well with that, right? Until now we're here. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying in that I always prospered. But that was because my soul was prospering as well.
Right.
I'm
Even
still
as your
prospering.
soul
Your
prospers. Yep.
soul prospers. So you got to focus on your soul prospering.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just like the scripture says, it says, seek ye the kingdom of Yahweh first,
Woo.
and
Mm.
his
Righteous.
righteousness, his, not ours, not
Mm.
self-righteousness, not none of that, his righteousness. And all these things will be added. It's an addition. So I ain't got to do a whole lot. I got to focus on my soul prospering. And all of that, when we talk about law of attraction, you want to get into law of attraction 2.0, honey, let me tell you, you'll be sitting up there wondering why things are going on, and you just sitting there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Things will be working out for you, and you just sitting there.
Right.
That's not to say that you ain't doing no work, but it don't look like the work that people used to.
And Mr. She about to lose a shoe. I
I'm
cannot.
telling you.
And I can't today. I can't. Don't keep your shoe.
Keep your shoes.
I'm the only one who be throwing shoes to Chicago. You cannot.
Right. I mean, you'll be looking lazy to everybody else, but they don't see, because who really sees your soul?
Your creator.
Your soul can shine through you, but who's really seeing the work, the inner work that you're doing on your soul, except really you and your creator? Everybody else gonna see the outside of it.
Right.
But you doing that inner work every single day, soul prospers. And then next thing you know, boom, you attracted to the opportunity that you're supposed to be a part of. Boom, you attracted to the people that you're supposed to be with in that opportunity.
Right.
Boom, you're attracted to this over here that's supposed to help with that. It attracts to you. And here's the thing about it. Your job, my job, our job is to maintain it and keep it.
And then he already told us, and no, cause we got to end this. But when you just said that last little that bar, I'm gonna call it the whole bar because that was a rap lyric. That you'll be sitting up and everything is just working out for you in your favor. It just takes me back to scripture yet again when he says, "Pressed down, shaken together, running over, shall men give into your bosom." So while you out there trying to recruit, and while you out there trying to do all this stuff, he already told you the plan. He says, "Shall men give into your bosom?" So you just sit down and wait on the prosperity and the success to come, because he already said who was going to give and pour back into you. You already did your work. You did it.
And if I ain't learned nothing else, and I'm a really end on this note, right? Especially with the advent of the internet, I'm telling you, I love it. 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 And a lot of people didn't understand it at first. I didn't. But when I found myself being at home, and then, okay, you got the World Wide Web, the internet, all of that kind of stuff. I didn't even realize at the time that people really wasn't using it the way that many people who were on the internet was using it.
Right.
I didn't.
The design of it.
Yeah, I didn't realize it until we had the pandemic, when everybody had to start using it. I'm like, dang, I thought everybody was using it this way, and they weren't. I was like, whoa, yo, okay. But do you know, I found myself with more of the opportunities that I wanted before, but didn't, like I didn't know how to go about it, or I couldn't for whatever reason or whatever. But then here I was at home, and meeting people all over the world, connecting with the people I'm supposed to connect with, getting the opportunities that to where I wouldn't even leave my house unless the connection was made. And when I left the house, I knew that it was for business purposes and money was coming back home with me.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
It's like, how was I doing all that at the house? And then here I was before out there, and I wasn't doing half the stuff that I was doing. Because when you surrender and you be obedient, and you meditate on what you're supposed to be meditating on, and you allow your soul to prosper, allow your soul to prosper, and just watch what starts to happen for you, and where in your business and your relationships and your everything. And that's not to say that you won't have challenges, because you will.
Right.
You will have challenges. What they say, new levels, new devils. And I ain't even talking about the people on the outside. No, you. Right? You.
And look, the new devil's gonna come before you hit the new level.
Right.
They're gonna be on their job way before you transition.
24/7. And it's gonna be stuff in you, because you gotta do things differently than what you did before. It ain't about nobody else, ain't about nobody outside. It's about how you handle whatever the situation is.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, that's all you have control of. Because guess what? What's the last fruit of the spirit? Self-control.
I gotta snap it off. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this coaching corner. Coach's blanket bouncing and I'm snapping. I hope you guys really enjoy this coach's corner as we talked about transition. So listen, if you share this or you know somebody, or if it's you who's watching the replay, please leave a comment, hashtag replay, so that we know that you watched the coach's corner and you got what you needed. And please, by all means, if you have a question, comment, concern, drop it in the chat, and Coach Hadassah and myself, we will do our best to get back to you. So hashtag replay, but also share the Coach's Corner. We are here every Tuesday night, 4:30 Pacific Standard Time, 6:30 Central Standard Time, and 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, right here watching on YouTube and Facebook Live each and every Tuesday night with the lovely, talented, informational, educational, knowledgeable Coach Hadassah, myself, Coach Cotton, and we are here to help you get to your next level. Coach, would you like to go ahead and take us out? I don't have anything else.
Look, you said everything. See you all next week. Good night. Have a
Good
great
night, y'all.